Torrential rain and flash flooding caused chaos as half a month's rain falls in just a few hours across parts of the UK. Severe storms leave thousands without power in the northeast, and in the worst hit areas in the south, schools are shut, buildings flooded and a train derailed. Well, the derailment was caused by a landslip on one of the country's busiest commuter lines. Some passengers were trapped on board for hours.
Going to work, going in London, and all of a sudden, roller coaster road, through the tunnel, all the lights flickering, bags going everywhere.
Well, we'll have a roundup of the latest developments and the services affected, also this lunchtime. The former Chancellor George Osborne is pushing forward with his plans for a northern powerhouse just weeks after being sacked by Theresa May. 15 years on, an apology from the MOD after British soldiers forced an Iraqi teenager into a canal and left him to drown. The final touches, London Fashion Week gets underway, but what impact might Brexit have on the multi-billion-pound business? And from volunteer at London 2012, Britain's Anne Dickens canoes her way to a gold medal in Rio.
Here, storms and flash flooding caused serious problems across the south. Railway stations and a maternity unit are forced to close. And M&S staff complain of cuts to weekend and holiday pay because of the living wage.
Hello, very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the BBC News at 1. Torrential rain and flash flooding have brought an abrupt end to the hot weather and caused major disruption across England after some parts of the country were hit by almost half a month's rain in just a few hours. Southern and eastern areas of the UK have been worst hit. Schools have been closed, buildings flooded, and a train on one of the country's busiest rail lines was derailed after a landslide on the track near Watford Junction. Well, Daniel Bircher will have more on that shortly, but first Duncan Kennedy reports on how the rest of the UK has been affected.
This was the stunning light show that illuminated much of last night's deluge. These photos were taken at Godalming in Surrey, the awesome scale and power of the storm on show for much of the night. But from these skies, several centimetres of rain were falling. Just like in Newcastle. Here, the great swathe of lightning and rain also swept eastward for several hours. Around 3,000 homes have had their electricity cut off. Power companies say they're working as fast as possible to reconnect people. At Didcot in Oxfordshire, just look at how deep the water is at the train station. Services in many areas have been delayed. This was one of the places that saw half a month's rainfall in one night.
Everything's been cancelled, so I'm not really sure how I'm gonna get to work and stuff.
I saw there was disruption and stuff, so I thought by now there would be some rail replacements in place, but there obviously isn't.
Well, I should start to work almost an hour ago, so just puts things back every day.
Some schools have been closed here and won't reopen until next week. It was Newbury in Berkshire that also saw the worst of the flash floods.
Do as much as we could, but we couldn't stop it. So we put some bins out here as well, so it just makes the water, doesn't make it flow inside. So.
Well, here in Newbury they saw some of the worst flash flooding overnight. It lasted for several hours, causing this kind of localised flooding. And just to give you an idea of the volume of the water that's flowing through here right now, take a look at this. This is bubbling up from under a drain. They're not quite sure what's causing it, whether it's a burst main or whether it's the water running off the hills behind us here. It was the same up the road in Reading, where an underpass collected several inches, adding to the difficulties faced by drivers across the country today. An idea of just how deep it was came at the town's football club. No room for any more rain in the rain gauge. The lightning hit this house at Christchurch in Dorset. No one was hurt, but emergency crews have been working to make the building safe. Last night's storms may have been a spectacle for some, but they brought with them the first of the pre-autumn downpours that have disrupted life for thousands of people. many of whom are still dealing with what's happened. Well, as you join us live, it's hard to believe that 72 hours ago we were reporting on the hottest September day in 105 years. But just look at it now. It's gone from wall-to-wall sunshine to cross-country storms, and that's brought all kinds of problems. In the past few minutes, we've learned that 350 homes in the Reading and Basingstoke still don't have power. That's being worked on. And all sorts of knock-on problems for the transport system as well. Great Western, like here, running through Newbury, London Midland and South West trains are all reporting delays. It's probably best to check with the stations before you travel tonight, especially ahead of the rush hour, in case you get caught up in that. And also on the roads, there have been flooded reports on the M4, the M40, the A34 and the M25. It just goes to show, Kate, what can happen with the weather, even in September.
It does indeed. Duncan, thank you very much. And as Duncan was saying, then problems with the transport. A train then derailed between Watford Junction and Kings Langley in Hertfordshire due to a landslide. Services between Milton Keynes and London Euston are likely to be affected for the rest of the day, as Daniel Bircher now reports.
Throughout the morning, emergency services and rail engineers have been at the site. 2 trains remain inside this tunnel after a derailment caused by a landslip. A small section of one of the trains came off the tracks. The second, heading in the opposite direction, gave it what's been described as a glancing blow. There were around 150 passengers on the 2 services. They have now been taken off after being transferred to another train inside the tunnel. Some described what happened as they arrived at a nearby station.
The train hit something, it went up in the air a little bit and then went off the track, so you could hear it going over the gravel.
All the lights flickering, bags going everywhere. It jolted up so much, a bloke had come off his seat, hit his head.
And the train derailed a bit and hit another train.
2 of the 4 lines passing through the site were reopened this morning. Network Rail and the train company say their priority is now to restore normal services as quickly as possible.
Obviously we've now got to recover these trains out of the tunnel and do the repair work, so that'll take a little while, but in the meantime we'll be running on 2 of the 4 lines.
As engineers work to move the trains and clear the track, an investigation has started into what happened. Daniel Bircher, BBC News.
Now, in his first major interview since he was sacked by the Prime Minister, George Osborne has told the BBC he'll remain in politics in order to, as he put it, fight for what he cares about. The former Chancellor said he would focus his energies on creating a northern economy to rival London and the South East. Well, Ben Wright's in Westminster for us. Ben, it's been called the Northern Powerhouse Partnership. Interesting to hear what the former Chancellor had to say about this project and how much support he had for it.
Yes, that's right, Kate. Remember, just 2 months ago, George Osborne was the second most powerful member of the government before he became the first member of the cabinet that Theresa May sacked on her first day in office, dispatching him to the backbenchers. But now, in this interview, his first since he was sacked, he's spoken out about an issue that he really pushed hard when he was at number 11, this idea of a northern powerhouse, transferring money and power to cities in northern England, encouraging transport infrastructure to be improved, directly elected mayors, something that he cares a lot about. Now, in this interview, he said that he thought the government wobbled over its commitment to that project when it first came in. He set up this think tank to try and, keep their feet to the fire, but thinks now the government is on board with it. But it's a fascinating interview that he did on the Today programme this morning. It's clear that he is not leaving politics. He's going to stay in it. He's prepared to speak out about issues that are sensitive. He was asked about grammar schools, Theresa May's idea of creating a new generation of grammar schools, something that George Osborne thought, while he supported, wasn't necessarily a priority. He said that more support should go to the majority of pupils who don't go to selective schools. And he said he wouldn't be going off to write his memoirs anytime soon because he didn't yet know how the story ended. Intriguing. He'll certainly be staying in politics and I think waiting for the political wheel of fortune to turn again.
All right, Ben, thank you. The Ministry of Defence has apologised for the death of a 15-year-old Iraqi boy who was left to drown in 2003. Ahmed Ali was forced into a canal by British soldiers as a punishment for looting. Well, a report strongly criticised the soldiers' actions. Our diplomatic correspondent Caroline Hawley is here. Just tell us a bit more about the report and what it had to say.
Well, the report was by a retired High Court judge, Sir George Newman, and he said that the way that this Iraqi teenager, Ahmed Ali, was forced into the water of that canal in Basra was unlawful. Once he was in the canal, his death could have been avoided because the report says he could and should have been rescued once it was clear he was floundering. The report says there was a manifest failure to act to save the teenager's life, so pretty damning stuff.
What then happens now?
Well, legally speaking, nothing, because this was a kind of fact-finding mission, if you want. It's part of a series of mini-inquiries that Britain is conducting into civilian deaths during the British occupation of southern Iraq. And Britain has to do that to fulfil its human rights obligations. But under the rules of these investigations, the soldiers can't incriminate themselves. But the MOD has been criticised as well as the soldiers. It's been criticised over the training and resources that were given to soldiers in Basra, and the MOD says that lessons will be learnt, that it's very sorry.
OK, Caroline, thank you. The President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, says the EU needs to take a brutally honest look at its problems. He's been speaking ahead of this morning's meeting in Bratislava to discuss the Union's future following Britain's decision to leave. Our Europe correspondent Damien Grammaticus has more.
If every picture tells a story, this one speaks volumes. Look who's missing from this summit. Britain, not invited, because the UK of its own volition is leaving this European family. The divorce from Britain is not being discussed today, but if Angela Merkel is the matriarch here, then she set the tone. Britain's vote is a warning of a malaise in this union that can't be ignored.
We need solutions for Europe. We're in a critical situation. You can't solve all Europe's problems in one summit. So what we have to do is show through our actions that we can do things better.
And to do things better, she has a plan, a roadmap out of Europe's crisis, as France's President François Hollande explained.
With three simple themes to give Europe's people new confidence in the European project. Protection, that means security. Preparing for the future, that means being a real power on the world stage in terms of our economy and creating jobs. And finally, giving hope to young people.
At the heart of the EU's problems are differences that run deep. But ahead for Europe's leaders lie challenges aplenty if they're to chart a path out of Europe's crisis. Damien Grammaticus, BBC News, Bratislava.
The fashion industry is big business for the UK, bringing in around £28 billion to the economy. But as London Fashion Week prepares to welcome visitors from 58 countries, some industry experts have expressed concern about the impact Brexit could have on the industry's global status. Well, Emma Simpson has been in Soho to see Fashion Week get underway.
Hats, shoes and clothes galore. The fashionistas out in force. It can only mean one thing: London Fashion Week, buzzing and making it clear it's open for business.
Amid all the glamour, more than £100 million worth of business will be done in the next few days. But the real talking point here is what will Brexit mean for British fashion?
This designer has seen a boost to sales as tourists take advantage of the fall in the pound.
The British fashion industry was actually very much predominantly a Remain vote. But actually what's interesting is we're seeing a nice buzz in the stores and in business because, of course, we are 10% cheaper. So that's an immediate little upside, which is quite nice.
But this industry is worried about the potential downside if free movement of people is stopped.
You'll see at London Fashion Week so much talent that started here at our universities were able to stay, start and build businesses from London. They have European workers, in fact workers from all over the world that work within their design rooms, that work within the manufacturing, and we want to ensure that that talent can continue to come here.
Like Roxanda, gearing up for her catwalk show.
But those days fabrics are incredible.
She's Serbian, but her fast-growing business is British. She came here to study and never looked back. Now dressing some of the world's most famous women.
I came to London from Serbia because I was so inspired with all incredible imagination that was coming from London. And I think that London is still that like a little melting pot of ideas, new generations, pushing the boundaries of what fashion is.
Would you be where you are today if you hadn't have been able to come to London?
Definitely not, and this is a very straightforward answer.
The Prime Minister says Britain will continue to be a global leader on the fashion stage. It's making international headlines this week. An industry now determined to make the best of Brexit, whatever that may bring. Emma Simpson, BBC News, Soho.
The time now is 1:15, and our main story this lunchtime. Severe storms leave thousands without power in the northeast, and in the worst hit areas in the south, schools are shut, buildings flooded and a train derailed. He's being compared with some of cricket's greatest batsmen, but will Haseeb Hameed make history and become only the second teenager to play in a test for England in more than 60 years?
Stay with us for South Today. Dan will have the latest on the weather. Plus, as flash flooding hits parts of the south, organisers of the Newbury show say it's business as usual. And a hat-trick of medals for the Hampshire para-athlete Georgie Hermitage.
Para-GB will win their 50th gold medal in Rio later today. They're guaranteed gold in the men's wheelchair singles tennis with 2 Brits in the final. So after 6 more golds yesterday, Great Britain are on 49 golds and second now in the medal table. Over then to our sports correspondent Andy Swiss, who's in Rio. It has been quite a haul, some wonderful successes, Andy.
Yes, Kate, welcome back to Rio, where, as you say, it has been some games for the British team, guaranteed to win their 50th gold medal later on. And they're on course to beat their overall tally of 120 medals from London 2012. This after another dramatic night in the athletics, as Adam Wilde reports.
After a golden day, an evening lined with silver. Richard Whitehead is not a man easily beaten, and like everything this great athlete has achieved, this medal didn't come easily. In the 100 metres, he wasn't even in the frame until his now so familiar burst of speed took him to joint silver. That too the reward for another of Para-GB's leading lights, Kadina Cox leading out the sprint relay team, but against the Chinese, along with Maria Lyle, Georgina Hermitage and Sophie Hahn, Britain could only follow. An evening of silver then, but it had followed another day of glorious gold. Being unable to use her legs has led some to call Natasha Baker the horse whisperer, but a dressage gold is certainly something to shout about. Gold too for Sophie Christiansen. She's not only a multiple Paralympic champion, but also has a first-class degree in maths. She may need it to calculate her growing list of titles. And when it comes to numbers, they say age is just another. Well, Anne Dunham turns 68 this month. Her silver medal means a certain team gold later today. Quite some way to celebrate. Whilst over on the waters of Rio, a debut for para-canoe. History there to be made. 20 years ago, Jeanette Chippington won gold as a swimmer. She only took to the open water on retirement. It seems the lure of glory is just too strong for some.
I said right from the start, I don't want to get into elite sport again. And then before I knew it, I was training twice a day, every day. And, 4 years later, here I am with a gold medal.
Emma Wiggs is another who has switched sports, competing in sitting volleyball 4 years ago, now a canoe gold medalist. Anne Dickens was at those games in London too, as a volunteer. She confessed to suffering seasickness the first time she got in a canoe. This an altogether better feeling. Something either Gordon Reid or Alfie Hewitt will experience later today as they compete against each other for tennis singles gold. But here they were on the same side, losing in the final of the doubles. Still silver, but those teammates will now become rivals. Adam Wilde, BBC News.
Yes, another successful day for the British team. I'm delighted to be joined by one of those gold medalists from yesterday, Emma Wiggs in the canoeing, and also by the Chief Executive of the British Paralympic Association, Tim Hollingsworth. Thank you both for joining us. Emma, first of all, just tell us what it means for you to be a Paralympic champion.
Oh, it's just incredibly surreal, really, to wake up this morning and there was a medal next to my bed. And, I've planned every aspect of my training and my life for the last ... and I didn't plan for this, so I'm a bit lost, but I'm just incredibly proud.
And just tell us a little bit about your background, because you competed at London 2012, but in sitting volleyball. Just tell us a little bit about the transition to canoeing.
I think after London, I had an incredible experience at London, and after London I went to try out some different sports, and para-canoe was one of them, and found myself in a boat, laying down a time that meant the performance director had a chat with me and said, I think we could we could go places. So it's then just been a whistle-stop tour of, you know, an incredible opportunity to have National Lottery funding to allow me to train at the top level, you know, 6 days a week, and it's been incredibly hard work, but just amazing to have done it and to be here this morning with a gold medal.
Yeah, it was obviously a pretty good decision. Tim, moving on to you, 50 gold medals today guaranteed. Just tell us a little bit about how much of an achievement that is in your mind.
Well, I think it's mostly down to people like Emma, who, as you say, we've known obviously for some time. London 2012 seems almost like a distant memory now, sitting on the balcony here in Rio. But I think the achievement is that of a whole team. What we've known is we've been supported, as you know, over this period as well by the National Lottery. The way that we can bring this together in this place with 19 sports competing. We hope also we'll beat our London medal target today, as you mentioned earlier. I really think the team behind the team has been working just as hard over 4 years to get Emma and all other 263 athletes in the best possible shape to compete and to win, and we're seeing some incredible performances and some gold medals as a result.
Briefly, Tim, can we beat the 120 medals overall from London 2012?
Yeah, I think if I sat here and say I don't know, I'm going to be very cautious with 2 days to go. We're looking at what's still to come. I think it's likely that we will. It sounds never want to be complacent, but we've got another great load of athletes competing today. We've got our equestrian team completing, we've got the sailing team completing, we've got swimming, athletics, still more road cycling as well. I really hope that we do, because I think it'll demonstrate the progression that we've had since London, and I think it'll show hopefully that we can make the nation proud and really have some positive impact back home in terms of the likes of Emma and what they can show.
Well, Tim and Emma, many thanks for talking to us. So there we have it, so much success for the British team here. But of course, here at the Paralympics, we have athletes from all around the world and from all sorts of different backgrounds. Many of them are here as the result of conflicts, either as injured service personnel or as refugees, as my colleague Julia Canero now reports.
Will be bronze for Nick Beaton and Great Britain.
Turning injury into inspiration, Nick Beaton lost both his legs when he stepped on an IED in Afghanistan in 2009. Yesterday, he won Para-GB's 99th medal of the Paralympics and is one of many former servicemen and women competing in the Games. Picture time for the U.S. Paralympic football squad. A first day off after the 7-a-side competition at the Games. 4 members of the team come from the U.S. military. 3 suffered traumatic brain injuries at wars overseas. The U.S. is one of several teams in Rio with athletes who were wounded in the battlefield. The Paralympic movement has its roots in war. Veterans from the Second World War were encouraged to play sport at Stoke Mandeville Hospital, and in 1948, the first Paralympic Games took place during the London Olympics. The link to war is remembered in this International Red Cross exhibition to provoke thought amid revelry here at the Swiss Hospitality House.
These pictures reflect the lasting impact of conflicts around the world and the power of sport to help overcome the traumas and injuries of war.
These athletes here have had a difficult journey.
This is the Paralympics response to the world's most recent crisis, the first ever refugee team. Syrian swimmer Ibrahim Al-Hussein had his leg blown off in 2012 and faced the risky crossing to Greece. He says 2016 has been the best year of his life.
Our presence at the Paralympic Games is very, very important. It brings awareness to the refugee crisis and shows that sport can help put an end to the bloodshed. I hope that in 4 years, each athlete can compete under his own flag.
Tony Sainsbury was moved when I asked about his new role leading the refugee team.
I was the chef de mission of the British team. I was very proud to do that. Well, this is on a different scale.
As these athletes prepare to leave Rio, it's with a renewed sense of ambition. Violence has changed the course of their lives, but sport is helping them move forward. Julia Carneiro, BBC News, Rio de Janeiro.
Yes, so many different stories here at the Paralympics. But as far as the British team is concerned, these games have been hugely successful. They will bring up 50 gold medals later on, Kate.
Andy, thank you very much indeed. Well, you can follow all the action from the Paralympics across the BBC. Live commentary then on BBC Radio 5 Live. The BBC Sport website will also have the latest, of course, throughout the games. And you can sign up for medal alerts via the BBC Sport app. Now, the mother of missing British toddler Ben Needham has been told to prepare for the worst by detectives who suspect he died 25 years ago. British investigators on the Greek island of Kos, where the 21-month-old vanished in 1991, now believe he may have been crushed to death by a digger after a new witness came forward.
The information was that there'd been an accident that day with the JCB that was working in the area, and it was his friend that was driving the JCB.
The new leader of the UK Independence Party will be announced this afternoon at the party's conference in Bournemouth. 5 candidates are competing to replace Nigel Farage. The MEP Diane James and Councillor Lisa Duffy are among the frontrunners. Mr Farage set out what he wants his party to continue doing.
We can be very proud of the fact that we won the war, but we now must win the peace, and the only mechanism to put pressure on the government to keep the debate live and to make sure that those 17.4 million people get what they voted for is for UKIP to be healthy and for UKIP to be strong.
You can watch the announcement of the new UKIP leader on the BBC News channel. That's in just a few minutes' time. Last week, MPs grilled him over his views on Brexit, and today Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, faces tougher questioning from BBC News school reporters. Simon Gompertz has been assessing how Mr Carney performed under the school reporters' scrutiny.
The guardian of the UK's money came harried by storm clouds, not of the political variety, real ones, which delayed his appearance in Coventry by more than an hour.
Late for school, yet again.
School report meant for him trying some friendly career advice.
I didn't have a fixed plan. I didn't have some sort of grand vision that I would end up here today. But I was doing something that I liked, something that I had a passion about. And if you do that, you'll succeed.
But if Mark Carney, cutter of interest rates, thought he could soften up this audience and avoid difficult questions, he was wrong.
Why should we save money in a bank when interest rates are so low?
Part of the reason, certainly why, when I save, is to put money aside for a bigger purchase in the future. But we recognize that by keeping interest rates so low, we're giving incentives for people to spend.
They teased out of him his nickname at school.
I was called Carnival or Carnage or...
The Carnage Governor could be a difficult one to live down. And his biggest challenge, Brexit.
You know, the toughest day was the overnight morning of the referendum.
Which countries outside of the EU do you see as most likely trading allies post-Brexit?
Most countries want to trade with the UK. And there are a number of countries, including my home country, Canada, Australia, a number of the big emerging markets who I'm quite confident will want to have deeper trading relationships with the UK.
Sharper questions than he gets from journalists. We also learned his favourite food is pizza, he prefers dogs to cats and loves dairy milk. Likely he needed one of those chocolate bars after weathering the kids of Coventry. Simon Gompertz, BBC News.
Now to another youngster. He's always been compared to some of cricket's greatest batsmen. Now 19-year-old Haseeb Hameed has been called up to the full England Test squad. If Hameed plays in the upcoming tour of Bangladesh, he will become only the second teenager to appear in the longer form of the game for England since 1949. Patrick Geary reports.
It's 1,000 runs for Hameed, and it's another record broken.
To do what he's done in his first full year is quite brilliant.
This is a special talent we have here.
It's been a summer of superlatives for Haseeb Hameed that ends with the teenager from Bolton paid the ultimate compliment, a call-up by England.
I've always wanted to play for England, and I've had this thought that I wanted to do it at a young age as well. I look at the best players that not only we've produced as a country, but around the world, they all start young, and that's the kind of level that I aspire to get to.
Hamid is ambitious and yet patient. In an era dominated by the master blaster, he's a batsman who waits, who knows he can rely on a technique taught to him by his father. At Bolton School, they saw they were onto a good thing. Hamid was in the first 11 while just 14. They knew, as England do, it's not just about the age, but the batting average.
Whenever he's been presented with a challenge, he has risen to it. When he stepped up a level, he's never looked out of place. So I'm quietly confident that he has the belief that he can make that, and I think it is belief at this stage which is going to be critical.
Hamid will find that cricket likes to compare. He's already been dubbed Baby Boycott after Jeffrey, a batsman who also priced his wicket high. And others see echoes of Athers, Hamid's fellow Lancastrian and former England captain Mike Atherton. As for the man himself, well, yesterday he was out in the middle, adding to a total of more than 1,100 runs for the season. But the real tests may still be ahead. Well, the summer is closing here at Old Trafford, but for Haseeb Hameed, the winter could be about opening for England. Patrick Geary, BBC News in Manchester.
Time for the weather now with Stav. Hello.
Hi there, Kate. Thank you very much. Well, after the remarkably hot first half of September, things went out with a bang last night, and this morning, cluster of thunderstorms developed, some very heavy rain, caused some flash flooding, even a landslide, as we've heard down the news, and some pretty frequent lightning as well. Fabulous weather watcher pictures coming through, like this one here in Bracknell in Berkshire. But it hasn't been the same everywhere. Many western areas have been relatively quiet. Certainly through this morning, the weather front associated with that heavy rain has continued to slowly push eastwards, but behind it, plenty of sunny skies with just a few showers around. So we're seeing scenes like this generally up and down the western side of the UK for northwest England, here in Cumbria, for Wales, parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland, bar a few showers around. Now that weather front with still some heavy and thundery rain in, it's very slowly moving its way eastward. So it looks like it really will be quite a grey and a wet day to come for much of eastern England, East Anglia and the southeast. Like I mentioned, the odd heavier burst mixed in. And notice those temperatures, 17 or 18 Celsius at best. It's much cooler than what we've been used to here. But elsewhere, plenty of sunshine, a few scattered showers around being blown in on a fairly brisk west or northwest breeze. And temperatures around 16, 17 Celsius. And we've lost the humidity, so it will feel that bit fresher. Now, that weather front across the southeast, reluctant to clear. In fact, it holds on through the course of the night. If anything, it moves a little bit further westwards again. So we could see some showers again pushing into the East Midlands, maybe as far in towards the London area as well. And quite a keen breeze blowing down the east coast there, and a cooler, fresher night to come for most of us, as you can see on these temperatures. Now into the weekend, we continue with that fresher feel, temperatures where they should be for the time of year. There will be some sunshine around, but also some rain in the forecast, particularly across the northwest corner of the UK. So here's the pressure picture into Saturday. Ridge of high pressure keeping things settled into central areas. We've got a weather front across the southeast continuing to bring cloud and rain. This is the weather front that will bring the rain to the northwest corner of the UK into the weekend. This is Saturday's picture then. Still a legacy of clouds, some showers across central, southern and eastern areas because of that weather front. Plenty of sunshine though elsewhere. In fact, quite a lovely day to come with light winds and temperature 17 to 20 degrees, pretty much where they should be for the time of year, and more comfortable to sleep at night as we've lost that humidity. Into Sunday then, it's still cloudy across the southeast, maybe the odd heavy shower around across East Anglia we'll see on Saturday. Lots of sunshine through central areas and rain beginning to push into the northwest. So it's a mixed bag, Kate.
Thanks, Stav. That's it then. It's time now on BBC One for the news where you are. Bye-bye.